Well, if the rumors are true, then the 3-3 meta in Overwatch League will be going away, and the legacy that it leaves behind is that fans certainly think of it as anything but the GOAT. Ardo Cal here, along with two great analysts to break down the 2-2-2 proposed lock. Jacob Wolf, Tyler Erzberger in Los Angeles. By the way, we are also looking at camera 2, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that we will get into a locked position moving into Stage 4 in Overwatch League in our second season. 2 DPS, 2 tank, 2 healer. This will be mandatory if these rumors are true, Jacob. What do you make of this news, but also the fact that it's happening in the middle of a season?
How many times did you just say 2 in the last 15 seconds?
More than 2.
Okay. Anyway, I think that this lock is okay depending on when it's implemented. If this lock is implemented between Stage 3 and Stage 4, then it's really dumb. I think if it's implemented after Stage 4 and playoffs for Stage 3, then that's okay. You got to give players a little bit of time, unlike Fortnite does. You got to give them a little bit of time to adjust, and I think that is what they should do. The real question is when they will do it, but I'm not against doing a 2-2-2 lock. Although, this weekend at the Atlanta homestand, we saw a lot more DPS characters. Sombra, Farah, maybe that's because all those teams kind of suck. And they just were kind of throwing it in and trying a bunch of different things. But we didn't see it nearly as much as we normally do. And so I'm sort of wondering, and obviously Dogman and Baby Bay told us that's because they think that teams are scrimming and preparing for 2-2-2.
I think you can look forward to the next meta because you have, very good individual talent on these teams. They just similar to us, like they didn't have as much time to work on GOATs, the GOATs meta, the 3-3 meta, right? Going into the next stage, it's supposed to be 2-2-2, and they're notably good on like Widow heroes, right? You got Logix, who's a really good Widow. You have Corey, who's a really good Widow. So these players should be able to shine a lot more, maybe be able to carry a little bit more. And I don't think that they'll be 0-7 again. I think that this next meta will be really good for them.
Which makes it sound like it's coming between Stage 2 and or 3 and 4. And if that's the case, then Blizzard, what are you doing?
Tyler, Dogman said that, listen, this is a natural evolution of this game. He said that in the beginning of Overwatch League, you could play every single character. Everybody on the team could be the same character. So for a change like this to happen, it's just natural. Do you agree?
I think it's asinine. I think this entire idea that you're going to change the game and how it's played right before Stage 4, the final stage before your playoffs, it's ridiculous. The greatest esport of all time, the game that kind of started the esports phenomenon, the great boom in South Korea, Starcraft Brood War. It's a game that has at times been broken. One race of the 3 has been stronger than the others. But you know what they do? Instead of, changing the game or adding a new race or taking a race away, people work at it and they find different strategies inside the game to defeat the OP strategy. GOATs, yes, it's kind of ruled Season 2, but you don't tell me that it's unbeatable. We've seen teams in the last stage or two learn different compositions to defeat it. We've seen Sombra have been added to the GOATs. We've seen more DPS heroes thrown into the meta to dethrone GOATs. GOATs isn't indestructible. I've seen it in Brood War. I've seen it in other esports. Things, just because it's bad right now doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. Going to 2-2-2 is fine. It's fine. If you want to do that and if you want to limit the creativity in your game, that's fine. But do it in the off season. Do it between the preseason, do it for Overwatch World Cup. If you want to play around with something, do it in the World Cup. There's no prize pool involved with that. This is your Premier League. This is the entire Overwatch ecosystem in one league, and you're just throwing away three stages of progression to throw in this wrench in the final second. I just think it's asinine. Sure, is it going to be more exciting to see more DPS heroes? Sure, but do it during the preseason. Don't do it now. I just feel like it's a desperation move, and I don't like it. The greatest esports are the ones that aren't desperate. They don't just flinch at the first sign of trouble. GOATs would have been defeated eventually. It's just that instead of that, Blizzard's basically throwing in the towel, saying, we need to get viewers before the end of the season. The viewership hasn't really gone up in the last few months. It's kind of been, hovering around 80,000, 90,000 nowadays. They're hoping that maybe DPS heroes going to the playoffs will boost the ratings. I don't know. I like Overwatch League. I think from everything from the home stands to everything around it. Great. I don't like 2-2-2 being implemented right before Stage 4 in the playoffs. It's awful.
I think your last point there is exactly why it's being done this way. It's because viewership of Overwatch League is declining. Their league has some serious issues in terms of keeping people intrigued. And guess what comes up at the end of this year? Many of their are broadcasting and sponsorship deals like Twitch and Intel and Omen by HP. Those all come up at the end of the year. So when you look at this, you're going, oh crap, how do we convince these people to pay more money? Twitch already paid $90 million over the course of 2 years in cash alone. So how do you get people more interested in Overwatch League? Is GOATS boring? Is that the theory? I don't know. But I do think that implementing it in between stages does seem like a desperation move. I agree with Tyler
If
here.
you listen to a lot of the criticism online, and maybe at times we shouldn't listen to a lot of the criticism online, but a lot of people are saying that GOATS is, if not the most boring, one of the most boring esports as a spectator sport to watch and digest. So this move being done could certainly be as a result of that, hoping that more people will get back into Overwatch League with the increase of DPS and that sort of excitement. People enjoy watching that. But do you think that this will be a long-term solution? Because another thing that came out of our interview is simply the fact that these players play this game so much that no matter what restrictions you put in front of them, Tyler, they're going to find a way to break the game eventually.
I think the 2-2-2 is a little bit more of an extreme of that maybe, but I think it can potentially help the healthiness of our environment, and I think that it may make the game more refreshing. But at the same time, compositions will still be locked, right? I think that more people will start to figure out the meta, and the meta will be figured out a little bit easier probably. But overall, there'll be more exciting moments most likely, and I think that it'll be just a better spectator sport.
That's what I said. I mean, look at Brood War, the longest running esport along with Melee. And the same thing with Melee. These games don't change, but people figure out ways to defeat the unbeatable. For Overwatch League and for Overwatch, people are saying, oh, GOATS is terrible. Overwatch League has only been around for 2 years. Overwatch has only been around as an esport for 3. Maybe 2 if you really want to talk about with Apex. But like, stop acting like GOATS is like the worst thing to ever happen. It's one meta that's taken over for a few months, a year of the 3. Wow. Big whoop. It's not that bad. If you want to nerf characters, nerf characters. That happens in every single game. It just seems like if you go to 2-2-2, there's gonna be a time where a team finds a 2-2-2 composition that defeats everyone else, and everyone's gonna do the 2-2-2 that everyone feels is the best, and we're gonna get in the same situation. It's limiting creativity. The thing I love about Melee, the thing I love about Brood War, the thing I love about Dota 2 is that at times people are always figuring out new ways to break the game. There's always characters in the game that have limits, that haven't seen the skill ceiling that they've really could reach in the end. For Overwatch League, I feel like we're at this point where there was so much creativity coming out, and we had bunker comps, and we had other things, you know, Sombra and all these other heroes that were getting thrown in, trying to create this thing that could defeat GOATS. That finally Blizzard was like, screw it, we're gonna, you know, change 2-2-2. It's all gonna be happy. We're gonna go to DPS heroes. People love Genji. Oh, look at the Dragon Blade. Woo! We love kills and we love Overwatch League, and it's amazing. Wow, super fun. I thought GOATS was, you know, meh. It wasn't great at times when 2 great teams like the Titans and Shock were playing at a high level. That was great, but it just feels so desperate. It feels so desperate. It's like they're inviting everyone to Chuck E. Cheese for their birthday party and no one wants to go.
I like your shout out to Super Smash Bros. Melee because that's a game that's not been patched since it first came out. And look at it. People have adapted. That game's been around for 17 plus years now, many of those as an esport, and people have figured it out. Fox doesn't win every tournament, and it's the strongest game in the entire thing. People like Hungrybox play things like Jigglypuff. People like S2J play things like Captain Falcon. They figure out how to work around it. And so, yeah, that does feel like a move.
To be fair, though, a lot of people would complain about Hungrybox's Jigglypuff play, calling it very boring. And if they had the opportunity to remove that from the game, some people say that they wish they never saw it.
Sure, but
despite him being so dominant.
Sure, but guess what? He wasn't always so dominant. People like Mango and people like Armada were really dominant on things like Fox and Falco. Right? He was the buster to those metas. And I think when you look at that, that's a patience play. People figure out how to work around it. You have players in those games who are really intelligent and think about it. But this to me seems like the league, the Overwatch League, taking it and going, oh man, we got to do something now because we're on a timeline for things outside of the game, and that's unfair to the game's history.
Last question about this. Which teams do you think will benefit the most from a 2-2-2 lock if it happens? And which teams will suffer the most, Jacob? And why is it Vancouver suffering the most?
I do think Vancouver suffers the most. Your suggestion is correct. But I do think a lot of these teams that have auto-qualified in for the normal playoffs, you look at that, a lot of them did it using GOATs. And I think that some of them will adapt better than others. San Francisco, people like Sinatra, they're pretty good. He's pretty good on other characters besides just the GOATs ones like Zarya. And so when you look at that, I do think that some will adapt, some will not. But I do look at Vancouver and go, okay, this is going to be an interesting playoffs for them if this is implemented in the next couple of weeks.
I think Vancouver will be fine. I don't know if they'll be as dominant as they were on GOATs, but they were still very good as runaway in in Contenders. With, playing DPS heroes. Hawksall is maybe the most famous Genji in the world. I think they'll be okay. They'll be fine. I don't think they'll be as dominant. The two teams that are the big winners here and that are throwing parties in their team houses right now are the two teams who were in the finals last year, who relied on their DPS lines to kind of, carry them there. Philadelphia and London. London is throwing a party right now. They do have the best DPS combo in the league with Bird Ring and Prophet. Now that they can actually play DPS heroes again and are actually, in the center stage again, London Spitfire are now your kind of, under the radar, kind of in the back waiting for the playoffs to start. Because right now, if the 2-2-2 is implemented, London, very good chance to make a deep run again in the playoffs just like they did last year.
For the record, I love Chuck E. Cheese, and I hope we all get invited to a VastCon later this year. Thank you very much for all of the insight, gentlemen, and keep it locked for analysis and breakdowns at ESPN.com/esports.